All right, we're going to read Next Door by Tobias Wolff, author of Say Yes, also author of Her Dog, and all kinds of stuff. Love this story. You guys will probably really dig it and then be really confused by it, which is perfect. Next Door. I wake up afraid. My wife is sitting on the edge of my bed, shaking me. They're at it again, she says. I go to the window. All their lights are on, upstairs and down, as if they have money to burn. He yells. She screams something back. The dog barks. There's a short silence, then the baby cries, poor thing. Better not stand there, says my wife. They might see you. I say, I'm going to call the police, knowing she won't let me. Don't, she says. She's afraid they'll poison our cat if we complain. Next door, the man is still yelling, but I can't make out what he's saying over the dog and the baby. The woman laughs, not really meaning it, ha ha ha, and suddenly gives a sharp little cry. Everything goes quiet. He struck her, my wife says. I felt it just the same as if he struck me. Next door, the baby gives a long wail, and the dog starts up again. The man walks out into his driveway and slams the door. Be careful, my wife says. She gets back into her bed and pulls the cover up to her neck. The man mumbles to himself and jerks at his fly. Finally, he gets it open and walks over to our fence. It's a white picket fence, ornamental more than anything else. It couldn't keep anyone out. I put it in myself and planted honeysuckle and bougainvillea all along it. My wife says, "What's he doing?" "Shh," I say. He leans against the fence with one hand, and with the other he goes to the bathroom on the flowers. He walks the length of the fence like that, not missing any of them. When he's through, he gives Florida a shake, then zips up and heads back across the driveway. He almost slips on the gravel, but he catches himself and curses and goes into the house, slamming the door again. When I turn around, my wife is leaning forward watching me. She raises her eyebrows. "Not again," she says. I nod. Between him and the dog, it's a wonder you can get anything to grow out there. I would rather talk about something else. It depresses me, thinking about the flowers. Next door, the woman is shouting. Listen to that, I say. I used to feel sorry for her, my wife says. Not anymore. Not after last month. Ditto, I say, trying to remember what happened last month. I don't feel sorry for her either, but then I never have. She yells at the baby, and pardon me, but I'm not about to get all weepy over someone who treats a child like that. She screams things like, I thought I told you to stay in your bedroom. And here the baby can't even talk yet. As far as her looks, I guess you'd have to say she's pretty, but it won't last. She doesn't have good bone structure. She has a soft look to her, like she's never eaten anything but donuts and milkshakes. Her skin is white. The baby takes after her, not that you'd expect it to take after him, dark and hairy. Even with his shirt on, you can tell that he has hair all over his back and on his shoulders, thick and springy like an Airedale's. Now they're all going at once over there. Plus, they've got the stereo turned on full blast. One of those bands. It's the baby I feel sorry for, I say. My wife puts her hands over her ears. I can't stand another minute of it, she says. She takes her hands away. Maybe there's something on TV. She sits up. See who's on Johnny Carson. I turn on the television. It used to be down in the den, but I brought it up here a few years ago when my wife got sick. I took care of her myself, made the meals and everything. I got to where I could change the sheets with her still in the bed. I always meant to take the television back down when my wife recovered from her illness, but I never got around to it. It sits between our beds on a little table I made. Johnny is saying something to Sammy Davis Jr., and Ed McMahon is bent over laughing. He's always so cheerful. If you're going to take a really long voyage, you could do worse than bring Ed McMahon along. My wife wants to know what else is on. El Dorado, I read. Brisk adventure yarn about a group of citizens in search of the legendary city of gold. It's got 2.5 stars beside it. Citizens of what? My wife asks. It doesn't say. Finally, we watch the movie. A blind man comes into a small town. He says that he's been to El Dorado and that he will lead an expedition there for a share of the proceeds. He can't see, but he'll call out the landmarks one by one as they ride. At first people make fun of him, though eventually all the leading citizens get together and decide to give it a try. Right away they get attacked by Apaches, and some of them want to turn back. But every time they get ready, the blind man gives them another landmark, so they keep riding. Next door, the woman is going crazy. She's saying things to him that no person should ever say to another person. It makes my wife restless. She looks at me. "Can I come over?" she says. "Just for a visit?" I pull down the blankets and she gets in. The bed is just fine for one, but with two of us, it's a tight fit. We're lying on our sides with me and back. I don't mean for it to happen, but before long, old Florida begins to stiffen up on me. I put my arms around my wife. I move my hands up onto the Rockies, then on down across the plains, heading south. "Hey," she says, "no geography. Not tonight." "I'm sorry," I say. "Can't I just visit?" "Forget it." I said I was sorry. The citizens are crossing a desert. They've just about run out of water, and their lips are cracked. Though the blind man has delivered a warning, someone drinks from a poisoned well and dies horribly. That night around the campfire, the others begin to quarrel. Most of them want to go home. "This is no country for a white man," one says, "and if you ask me, nobody has ever been here before." But the blind man describes a piece of gold so big and pure that it will burn your eyes out if you look directly at it. "I ought to know," he says. When he's finished, the citizens are silent. One by one they move away and lie down on their bedrolls. They put their hands behind their heads and look up at the stars. A coyote howls. Hearing the coyote, I remember why my wife stopped feeling sorry for the woman next door. It was a Monday evening, about a month ago, right after I got home from work. The man next door started to beat the dog, and I don't mean just smacking him once or twice. He was beating him, and he kept at it until the dog couldn't even cry anymore. You could hear the poor creature's voice breaking. Finally it stopped. Then, a few minutes later, I heard my wife say, "Oh," and I went into the kitchen to find out what was wrong. She was standing by the window, which looks into the kitchen next door. The man had his wife backed up against the fridge. He had his knee between her legs, and she had her knee between his legs, and they were kissing really hard. My wife could hardly speak for a couple of hours afterward. Later, she said that she would never waste her sympathy on that woman again. It's quiet over there. My wife has gone to sleep, and so has my arm, which is under her head. I slide it out and open and close my fingers, considering whether to wake her up. I like sleeping in my own bed, and there isn't enough room for the both of us. Finally, I decide that it won't hurt anything to change places for one night. I get up and fuss with the plants for a while, watering them and moving some to the window and some back. I trim the coleus, which is starting to get leggy, and put the cuttings in a glass of water on the sill. All the lights are off next door except the one in their bedroom window. I think about the life they have, and how it goes on, until it seems like the life they were meant to live. Everybody always says how great it is that human beings are so adaptable, but I don't know. In Istanbul, a friend of mine saw a man walking down the street with a grand piano on his back. Everyone just moved around him and kept going. It's awful what we get used to. I turn off the television and get into my wife's bed. Her smell, sweet and heavy, rises off the sheets. It makes me a little dizzy, but I like it. It reminds me of gardenias. The reason I don't watch the rest of the movie is that I can already see how it will end. The citizens will kill each other off, probably about 10 feet from the legendary city of gold, and the blind man will stumble in by himself, not knowing that he has made it back to El Dorado. I could write a better movie than that. My movie would be about a group of explorers, men and women, who leave behind their homes and their jobs and their families, everything they've ever known. They cross the sea and are shipwrecked on the coast of a country that isn't on their maps. One of them drowns. Another gets attacked by a wild animal and eaten. A but the others want to push on. They ford rivers and cross an enormous glacier by dog sled. It takes months. On the glacier, they run out of food, and for a while there, it looks like they might turn on each other, but they don't. Finally, they solve their problem by eating the dogs. That's the sad part of the movie. At the end, we see the explorers sleeping in a meadow filled with white flowers. The blossoms are wet with dew and stick to their bodies. Petals of columbine, clematis, blazing star, baby's breath, larkspur, iris, rue, covering them completely, turning them white so you cannot tell one from another, man from woman, woman from man. The sun comes up. They stand and raise their arms, like white trees in a land where no one has ever been. The end. Love that story. If you're going to work, you're always working with theme, no matter the unit. And I've given you all those conceptual themes, 1 and 2 word themes. We can add to that list. You can choose from that list to work with this story, in my opinion. This is also a good story to construct theme statements. I think there are definite longer lessons about life and what it is to live built into this particular story. Remember, the path we've chosen to determine conflict is, or to determine theme is, identify the conflict. Determine whether that conflict is resolved. If so, how? If not, why not? From that process, we should be able to say something. We should be able to say something about the point of this story. What's this man trying to say? This man, Tobias Wolff, about human beings in general through these two couples that live next door to one another. I will tell you that if you came up with the conflict immediately, you probably need to look a little harder. You can probably hear my baby crying in the background also. All right, let's talk.